Enneagram can tell you a lot about your personality, but the real power is understanding the motivations behind your behavior. Today's guest built an entire business around helping people do exactly that. Welcome to Get Messy, the mindset space for creatives who want to build sustainable, successful careers while embracing the messiness of the process. I'm Maddie. I've been a professional performer for over a decade, and I'm currently in grad school to become a therapist. I'm the friend who isn't afraid to dig a little deeper and who will never BS you on what it actually takes to stay in the game. Today, I'm sitting down with Enneagram Ashton, a speaker and author who helps individuals and organizations use the Enneagram to build self-awareness, improve communication, and strengthen relationships. Ashton and I used to be in the same business membership, and I always noticed whenever she showed up to office hours, she was constantly taking big swings in her business and doing things that always pushed herself out of her comfort zone. And every time she did, it seemed like her business was growing exponentially because of it. In this episode, we talk about Ashton's journey from opening a women's boutique at just 22 years old to earning a master's in community psychology to starting an Instagram account about the Enneagram that unexpectedly went viral. She ended up quitting her job in early 2020 and going all in on her business, which was like literally she did this probably less than a month before COVID was COVID. And today she's built a career around teaching people how to understand the deeper motivations behind their personalities. We dive in how to work with both the strengths and the uncomfortable truths of your Enneagram type, why the Enneagram isn't meant to be used as a compatibility shortcut, and why the most powerful tool in using it is simply self-awareness. We also talk about the realities of entrepreneurship, roller coaster income, routines, and protecting your creativity. And if you're not already obsessed with the Enneagram, you might be after this episode. I've always admired Ashton as a creative entrepreneur, so it was really cool to get a deeper look into the mindset behind her work and business. Without further ado, please welcome Enneagram Ashton. Ashton, I'm so excited to chat with you. This has been a long time in the making. For people who don't know, online you're known as Enneagram Ashton. You're a public speaker and author. You help individuals and organizations use the Enneagram to build self-awareness, improve communication, and create healthy relationships at home and at work. And you primarily do this through keynotes, workshops, coaching, and ongoing community support. You also have a very fun Instagram, which is informative and just so much fun to learn everything that you do. The Olympics one recently of like what you'd win a gold medal for your Enneagram. Like, this is so great. I always love it. And we both were in Ashley Pollard's The Doers membership. So I've gotten to hear a little bit about your story throughout the years, but to kick us off, what important snippets of your story do you want to share for how you went from having a passion for Enneagrams to designing an entire business around it? What problem were you trying to solve when you started Enneagram Ashton?
Yeah, so I feel like we have to go back to the very beginning because this isn't my first business. And so I first became an entrepreneur at 22 and I opened my first, it was like a women's boutique. So it was a brick and mortar store for 5 years. And then I went back to school and got my master's in psychology. And so from there, it was all about like seeking to understand other people and specifically communities. My program was community psychology. And so wanting to see change in communities. And so during my master's program, I discovered the Enneagram, and I had always been obsessed with personality tools to like better understand myself and other people, etc. But what I loved about the Enneagram was that it's not about your behaviors, it's about your motivations for why you do things. And so coupling that with what my experience was at the time, which was teaching people how to have healthy relationships, because I was working in the field of domestic violence and sexual assault prevention, and specifically how to have healthy relationships, and trying to incorporate this tool into showing people how, by understanding yourself and your tendencies and understanding other people, we can have healthier relationships in our personal lives, our professional lives, in the workplace, family, etc.
I read that on your website about the community psychologist piece. And it's funny, I'm in grad school right now for clinical mental health psychology. And so it's been so much fun. I love it. But I love what you just said, because I am super obsessed with Enneagrams, but to kind of separate behavior and motivation. I love that because I just learned a lot about behavioral therapy and it's so focused on like your behaviors. And I think to kind of like, yes, that's one piece of it, but be like, where is that stemming from? What's happening? So I love that you kind of mesh all of these worlds and like took that tool to be like, wow, that feels like something that could be really grounding for people of all different, whatever is going on in their life to kind of be this grounding piece to help them understand themselves. I feel like when I first found Enneagrams, I was like, oh my God, this whole new world is like open and available to me. I'm a two wing three, and
Me
my
too.
mindset coach. Okay. And so is my mindset coach, Amy Austin, is also a two wing three. So her and I, whenever we work together, we frequently use the Enneagrams to facilitate the work we do together, the coaching. But I feel like there's this excitement when people first take the test, learn what their Enneagram is, and it's like, okay, what do I do now with all this information that I'm like flooded with? When people are at that stage of like just newly discovering their Enneagram, what do you suggest they do?
So I think that, it is great, obviously, to discover your type. What people want to do at first really is like read all the great stuff about themselves. And that's like very human nature, right? Like I want to only read the great stuff, but I always encourage people to also think about and read about the stuff that like doesn't feel as great to you. Like that kind of gives you that punch in the gut because that's how you figure out where to go next. That is the root of where you need to go next. And so to look at the great qualities of yourself, to look at those not so great qualities and to see what it is that you want to change because awareness is great. But if there's no implementation, then you're using the Enneagram in the wrong way because we can all just say, like, oh, I'm a two, and then go out into the world and do nothing with it. But that's not the point of the Enneagram. The point of the Enneagram is to be able to use it as a tool to promote self awareness, personal growth, and a deeper understanding of yourself and other people.
Well, and you saying that on your website, you talk about growth beyond insight. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about. If like it's not just like the insight into it, it's how you're implementing what you have in that insight. Is there a mindset shift most people overlook when they learn their type?
I mean, like I said, they typically overlook like the not great things about themselves. Or, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't want to be put in a box, or I don't want to be just like this type and to go on into the world. But they're missing all of the intricacies that the Enneagram has to offer and really the story that it's able to tell you about your life and the way that you view the world. Because I like to explain the Enneagram as well as different lenses because we all view the world differently based on the lens of our type. And one way that I was taught to kind of hit home with this analogy is to think about the different types as different colored glasses. And so oftentimes, I'll say like twos are wearing blue colored glasses and threes are wearing green colored glasses. And so every situation that a two looks at then is going to have that blue tint to it. But what a three looks at is going to have that green tint to it. So, like two people viewing the same situation, but just viewing it different based on their type. But the different intricacies of the Enneagram that I was talking about is think about how many different shades of blue there are. And so, like, you're a two, I'm a two, Amy's a two. Like, we could all have different shades of blue depending on our life situation, our circumstances, the things we've gone through. And so, those are the things that you're missing out on if you just say, like, oh, I'm a two, and you just go on with your day.
Yeah, like the complexities and the nuance and the shades within how you specifically embody the strengths and weaknesses of a two. We're going to talk about your membership in your group program, but I'm so curious in the ways in which you work with people specifically with their Enneagram. What is the thing you see people struggle with the most in utilizing their Enneagram in their work or in their relationships?
So, I mean, obviously, like it's a general sense of not being self aware. Like a lot of people just aren't aware of like their tendencies or their tone of voice, just unaware of the different things that are going on. A lot of times it's stress, like they aren't aware that of the things that do stress them out and then how their stress response shows up. So that's a big piece of it. But each individual Enneagram type struggles with different things. So, like those who are in this 2, 3, 4, what we call triad, are going to struggle more with things like shame or feeling like they don't measure up or caring what people think about them or comparison. But those who are eights and nines and ones, like they think about that. And so they might be struggling with different things like being self critical. Or I was talking to somebody earlier about feeling like micromanaged. And I was like, it's not really something that I think about often. But for like eights and ones, it's like constantly in their head of like, I need to be in control. I need to be in charge. And so everybody is going to struggle with something different based on their type.
For sure. I was telling my husband, you and I were talking, and he's never taken the test before. And I was like dying to know. And he's definitely, from what you just said, has to be an eight or a one because he needs to be in control. Yeah, you just said that. I'm like, okay, I'm would
It's
guarantee
narrowed
he's
down. It's narrowed down.
narrow it down to one of those categories. You obviously know so much about the Enneagrams, Ashton, and you talk about them all the time. Is there a question that you're tired of getting when thinking about Enneagrams, or is there a question that you wish people would ask you more about?
So the question that, as a two, I'm like, I don't want people to feel bad for asking me those questions. But the question that I get most often that I don't have a good answer for is compatibility. Like people always want to know, like, what type is best for me, or like what type is best for me to hire, or what type is the best friend, etc. And there isn't really a best type for somebody because let's say that in a perfect world, like eights and fives are like the best type combination. But if you have an eight that's really unhealthy, then they're no longer a great combination. So instead of utilizing the Enneagram for compatibility, it can be really helpful to just utilize it for understanding. So let's say that a one and a three are together or a one and a three are friends. Like these are the things that are going to be great strengths in their relationship. And these are things that might be considered areas for growth or things that they need to look out for. So instead of utilizing it to like determine like who am I compatible with, it's these are the things that could come up. So that's definitely one that I get most often that people don't like the answer because they're like, I want to know, I
Just
want to
tell
know
me,
what,
yeah.
yeah. I guess the question that I wish people would ask is how do I use this information to become a better version of myself? Like I said, a lot of people just want to figure out their type and then be done with it. But I just want people to be able to see the impact that knowing the Enneagram and again, like implementing it into their life, like what that can do for them in all different facets of their lives.
It's so interesting because Amy was the one who encouraged me many, many years ago to take the test. And in working with her, often it'll be, well, you're a two wing three. So, like, let's kind of dive in. And we use it so often. And I feel sometimes so seen and heard, even in like the weaknesses. Like you said, sometimes it's nice, like you mentioned, shame or comparison and some of the things that we might face. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's nice to know that I can have that awareness and work on it. And it's probably just a part of that lens that I'm looking through. It's not this thing that I can never dismantle or never change. You have specific ways you can support people with engaging with their Enneagrams. You've got the support squad, which is your official Enneagram membership. And you also have the Enneagram Advantage, which is a program designed for professionals, coaches, leaders, and service providers. Can you break down these two services, how you use them to support people and who each service would be right for?
Yeah, so my support squad is my like monthly membership. I was originally created as a way for Enneagram twos to come together to feel supported. But what I realized in creating it that way is that all of these other types also really want that support. And so it's been really great to have that change in opening it up to all types. And what I've noticed the most is types just learning from each other, right? So we have an array of types in the membership. And so just being able to learn from a type that maybe like this is your spouse's type and they're in here and you're hearing from them and you're relating in that sort of way. And so every month we have a training and then we have like a Q&A and coaching call. And then there's a membership portal. So we're in constant communication with each other throughout our time together. So that's really for anybody who wants to dive deeper into their type, into learning about other people's types, and just being able to, like I said, take it from awareness to implementation. The Enneagram Advantage is specifically a training program. So this is often for people who want to take the Enneagram to like their workplace or use it with clients, and they want to be trained on how to do that. And so I have a lot of people who, instead of, hiring me to come in and talk to their team, they're in this program so that they're able to talk to their team instead.
So cool. Yeah, because I mean, everything you described, I feel like it could be so helpful for businesses where there's, I mean, you could have a whole employee base of every type under the sun. So what a great tool to understand them better.
Yeah. So yesterday I went and was speaking to a team. And what was super interesting is that they had no fives or sixes. And so they had all of these other like super passionate, gut centered, feelings focused people, but no one who was like actually thinking things through. And so just having that awareness, on your team and being able to make sure that you know what to do with that information can be really important. So with the Enneagram Advantage, I open it twice a year and train people. They actually leave with like a certification and a certificate to be able to implement the Enneagram in the way that I teach them to.
Amazing. So cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about even different workplaces I've worked in before. I've worked a lot in sales and I'm like, that would have been so helpful. It still can be so helpful because especially in sales where you're connecting with people all the time too. And then we are connecting with each other and strategizing. That's amazing. I'm curious to dive more into some of the business side of things, like how you created your business. And so you mentioned having your first business before kind of diving into going back to get your master's and creating Enneagram Ashton. When you first decided to be all in on Enneagram Ashton, what was one of the scariest early decisions that you made?
Well, I quit my full-time job about a month in or a year in. So that was
Okay.
definitely a risky
That would do
biz.
it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So I started this business not trying to start a business. I'll say that. So what I did was I was driving home from being with family between Christmas and New Year's. So it was New Year's Day. And I was like, I'm obsessed with the Enneagram. I want to like create an Instagram account about what I'm learning. And I wanted it as like a creative outlet to like be able to create these graphics and things like that. And so I created my Instagram account and all of a sudden it was like blowing up. So I was getting thousands of followers per day. And it was that spring that I said to my like now husband, we were engaged at the time. I said to him, I think that this is like turning into something and I need to like pursue this a little bit. And so it wasn't until then that I went and got certified in the Enneagram to like actually feel confident in the things that I was sharing. And I felt the switch because people were asking me to help them figure out their Enneagram type. And so that's really how I got started, by helping people figure out what their type is and what we call like typing interviews now, but helping them figure out their type and then what to do moving forward. And so from there, then again, my account just kept growing and growing. And I think that I was at like 200,000 followers after like 13, 14 months. And then I was like, I need to devote more time to this because what I was doing is I was working a 9 to 5 and commuting an hour home. Because again, this was before COVID. So like I worked in a workplace about an hour away, commuting an hour home, and then I would take clients until like 10 o'clock at night. So I was doing this every day and I was like, something's got to give. And I think I need to take the like jump and just do it. And I had an incredible boss at the time who is an Enneagram 3. And so like we were utilizing it in our workplace. So I had an incredible boss at the time who was like, I support you and I think you need to do this. And, as an Enneagram 2, I was like, I need that validation, right?
Yes. Give me permission,
Yeah, give
please.
me permission. And so I took the jump and that was January of 2020. And so like think
Oh
about,
my
yeah,
God.
you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm going to take this job. It actually might have been February. But I was like, this is great. I'm going to take the jump. I have like all of these. I had a book coming out. I had all these in-person events coming up. I was like, this is the perfect time. And then like the world shut down. And so then I was like, oh, what did I do? But then everybody went virtual. And it ended up being such an amazing time for online business because everybody was home and everybody was learning how to do things virtually. And so from there, I started to do a ton of virtual speaking events, virtual workshops for companies who were looking for like how to increase morale during that time period. And then it just kept, yeah, growing from there.
What I love so much, I'm getting like chills as you were saying that story, Ashton, because we can only connect the dots looking back. We can never connect them, obviously, looking forward. And it's just so funny, like the myriad of things that kind of fell into place that ended up working out. And I love that it was all born out of passion. Like you truly were just so passionate about this. And that was what led you to start posting about it. It had nothing to do with you even wanting to set, like you said, start a company, build a business. And I feel like that is so attractive, especially in this day and age where a lot of people now have seen what the creator economy or like online business economy did post COVID, that it's so attractive. It's like people are looking for that passion and authenticity as like the starting point, which I feel like is, I'm sure so much of your success is people were like, oh, wait, I want to know more about this. And I like you saying it because you're coming from such a passionate place. In your years of being an entrepreneur, is there something that you think people romanticize about entrepreneurship?
I think it's natural for us to be like, oh, there's so much flexibility and there's so much like you're building your own schedule and you're hardly working. And like I have two. So I did all of this before I had kids too. And now I have 3 and a 5-year-old. And so, like now, yes, like the flexibility is so nice that I'm able to do that. But I am literally working like all hours at all times. Like my brain doesn't shut off. And so, yes, it's amazing. But what people aren't understanding is like it's still happening. Just you get to choose when you're working. So, am I working sometimes at 10 o'clock at night, like I was doing in the very beginning of building this business? Yes, but it's on my own terms.
Right. And I think, like you said, too, because there's not that 9 to 5, like even when you clock out, sometimes, like you said, your brain is still like mulling over a call you had or this new idea that you have or this book that you're writing. Like even that part, it can occupy so much of your brain space, which occupies so much of your time. Since starting the business January, February 2020, which is so funny that that was like, of course, the timeline that it started, but it makes sense why it catapulted to such great levels because everyone was looking for connection and at home wanting to, but we had more time to even learn more about ourselves. Companies try to figure out how to build morale. Since starting your business, were there any either big pivots or like kind of like bold as fuck moments to like shake everything up in what it initially was to where you are now?
I mean, things definitely have pivoted a lot since starting, where, I said that I was starting more like one-on-one stuff, like being able to help people, coaching one-on-one. And I would say like the biggest turning point in my business was in 2022. I was on Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Could Do Hard Things. And I was just kind of getting into the like speaking world. Like I was wanting to speak more, wanting to do more workshops, more like team development. And that kind of kick started it for me because people heard me and then wanted me to come speak like to their group. And so that was really when I started pivoting more from working one-on-one to more like group setting, traveling to speak, etc. I would say in general, I felt bold because I had these two really young kids. Well, at that point, one. And then, like having a second kid while traveling and like speaking and doing all of these things just felt like, what am I doing? And like, is this like something that I can keep up with? So I just feel like in general with speakers, most keynote speakers are males. And so anytime I step onto a stage, like it feels like a bold move.
I'm obsessed with you saying that because even as you were talking about different keynote speakers that I know, there was like 3 different people that came to mind that used to be actors and now they're motivational speakers and they're all guys. And so even as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, it's this person and that person. So yeah, like to claim that space and to show up and arrive and connect with all the people there, that is for sure. I'm so curious because one of my friends who does this, he came on the podcast a couple months ago, and that is the one thing I think speaking can seem so glamorized and it's like, oh my God, you're going and you're talking in front of all these people and it could be so high energy and there's like that energy exchange you have with the audience. But like you said, you are traveling a lot. Like post COVID times, like he's gone 3 weeks out of the month sometimes bouncing around. So I can't even imagine like you doing that with a young kid too.
That is a glamorous side of business, is being able to pick and choose. And so like in the season of my life, like I can't be gone that much. And so I try to balance the virtual events with the in-person events so that I can, go and pick my daughter up at 1 p.m. from pre-K. So like that is like, yeah, people romanticize that, and that is a reality that I am able to do that. But do I then at night open my laptop to make sure that tasks get completed? Yes.
1000%. Yes. And in entrepreneurship, Ashton, there's so many ebbs and flows and uncertainties. Like 1 month, it could be so many inbound leads and like new people joining the membership and a great like financial month. And other months, it's not. And it has sometimes nothing to do with effort or something that once worked that didn't work. How do you deal with the ebbs and the flows and the uncertainties?
Not well.
Us twos, I feel like it is not always easy.
It is so, and I come from a long line of entrepreneurs in my family, typically on the male side of my family. But my dad has always said, like, if you can deal with the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, like, you will make it. And so I think for me, it's always my thought process of viewing it, as a roller coaster, knowing that once you go down, you always come back up. And so that is just something, it's like a mindset thing that I just always have to keep in the back of my head.
For sure. I've been in the entertainment industry for a long time. And they said, I remember when I was early in my career, like, if you're in this career long enough, it'll look like a bad EKG where it's like up, down, up, down. Like it's just all over the place. I could feel the emotions creeping up when I'm like, we're starting a downtrend. Like I've been in it long enough to see it, but I've also been in it long enough to be like, I know it will come back up. So I love that roller coaster analogy, bad EKG analogy. When you think about money, because obviously you left a full-time job to come full into this business, how has your relationship with money changed from the beginning of Enneagram Ashton to where you are now?
So I don't know if this is a great way to look at money, but I am also an eternal optimist, as most twos are. And so one thing that I tend to think is I'll just sell something if I need to make something. And so I don't know if that's a great thing, but knowing that I have the capacity and that if I work harder, I can make more money. And that sometimes for me, it's just that I don't have the time or the space to do something. But if I put in the work, then I know that I will see a return. That's kind of goes along with your other question about like, how do I deal with the ups and the downs? Like, I just know that I'm a believer that if I put in the effort, it'll come.
Well, no, which I think is cool because I think there's so much that's out of our control. Like it's out of your control whether someone says yes and joins the group program or whatever the case may be, but you can control how much you put in and how you keep going and how you kind of respond to what's happening. And so I think that that's so cool because it is that inner power to be like, okay, like even if it didn't work today, it could work tomorrow and I'm just going to keep going. And I know at some point it will work if I keep going and keep showing up. Is there anything in your business right now you're currently rebuilding or redefining?
So I feel like last year was a lot of a rebuilding year for me, like kind of trying to streamline my programs a little bit more and to prioritize specific things. And last year I like redid my branding and stuff too. So that was part of it. But I think right now I'm just trying to build on consistency, like consistently showing up, consistently launching and relaunching, being consistent with my posting. So I think that that is primarily what I'm working on like right now.
It's so funny too, because from someone who mainly engages with your brand on Instagram, I feel like you're very consistent. So it's like interesting for me to hear you say that because I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, I feel like you got that on lock. But it's like funny how sometimes what it appears isn't how it necessarily feels for the person that's doing it. Something in the entertainment industry that happens often is when people finally get booked on something that they wanted, whether it be like a guest star or a co-star, they finally make the series regular. They think it's going to feel a certain way and it doesn't. It feels like very different from what they thought it was going to feel like. So it can kind of feel anticlimactic of reaching this goal that they've been pining after. Has any part of your success or achieving certain goals felt anticlimactic in this journey?
I would say that that's a really great question. And It's a hard question to answer because things are just changing so much. Whereas, I'll get on a podcast that I really wanted to be on, and then it's really heightened at that moment. But then maybe like 6 months later, it's like, oh, well, that was kind of anticlimactic, or it didn't land like I thought it would. I guess when you think that these big events that you're getting booked are going to lead to more, and then it doesn't. Or I think, like pitching is always the worst. Like I hate the pitching so much. I guess probably the biggest like letdown is when you've been like working towards securing a deal and then you get ghosted. Like so many people are just totally fine with ghosting people. And I think that is just like, I don't know if I would say anticlimactic, but I would say like just such a bummer, that you can't just like A, like the fact that you changed your mind, but then B, the fact that you can't tell me that you changed your mind.
Yeah. And kind of, it's like you're left, it's like truly climbing up the mountain of like, we're getting closer and closer and closer to making this deal. And then it's just like, what fall off the mountain? Because, and you would have to deal with that alone. Like the no is way easier. I can process that. Give me like an evening and we're good. The wondering, like, am I going to hear from you? Am I not going to hear from you? Oh, is that it? Horrible. And you brought up a great point too about momentum. That's something also in the entertainment industry that it's that misconception of like, oh, once I book the co-star, then I'll book the guest star. And then like you'll keep climbing up this ladder, or like the second people see that you book it, the door is gonna knock down and everyone's gonna want you. And then it's like, oh, it's similar, just like slightly better, but it's kind of the same. In being more consistent, is there been any helpful habits or habits that are kind of hurting your consistency that you wanna wrestle with? Like what's helped you, I guess, become more consistent?
Routines, to be honest. Having a good team, not just having a good team, but having like regular check-ins with the team, which I think that you can get so caught up in like the day to day that you forget that like check-ins with people are really important, and not just check-ins with like your team, but checking in with yourself and what needs to be done, and thinking about the future. Thinking about like future thinking has always been a challenge for me. But when I've started to think about 30 days from now, 90 days from now, next year, that helps me to stay consistent in the moment.
And what I'm curious to, Ashton, because so much of what you do is creative, like designing group programs, writing books, posting on Instagram, all of the content. How do you recharge your creativity?
By literally laying on my couch and being horizontal. I read a lot, and I need that time to like just like be silent. A lot of times with entrepreneurship, your brain is just constantly moving in 5,000 directions. So anything that I can do to kind of silence my brain is really helpful to regenerate my creativity.
I'm so with you. One of my favorite things in the morning, because I'm an early riser, my husband's early, but not as early, is I'm like to wake up and read. When I'm like, the world still feels quiet, my brain doesn't feel so full of like crap from the day, and I'm able to like easily ingest the information I'm reading, not 2-second Instagram reels being like flung at me. So I feel you on that as well. And last couple of questions, Ashton, it's more our outro questions. I'm so sad because I'm like learning so much about you and your business and Enneagrams. I'll just have to obviously keep getting more of you on your Instagram. Last couple questions, more rapid fire. What's the messiest thing about you?
I wish you could see my office right now. Like literally, I'm like selling my kids stuff at like a kids consignment sale next week. And so I wish you could see my office. My office, my car, like I am a messy, creative human. And it works for me, but it horrifies other people.
And you know what? All we could see is here. So who really cares? I go through phases. I remember even my parents just came to visit. My dad's like, this is the cleanest I've ever seen your car. I'm like, well, I knew you were coming.
I knew you were coming.
Like,
yeah.
you were the one person that has always judged me for it. So I was like, I made sure before you came to visit, it was clean. Otherwise I had Christmas decorations in it, a basketball. I'm like, where did any of this even come from? I don't know. What do you want more in the next season of life?
I mean, I feel like it's cliche, but just like time with the people that I love, like my kids, like being able to go and do fun things, but also to not worry about what's going on around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything personally or professionally you're excited about coming up next?
Yeah, I have a couple speaking events that I'm excited to go to. I'm going to Utah for the first time. I always love when I get to check off like a state with my speaking event. So just yeah, a lot of fun travel coming up for work and conferences and things like that. And then personally, hopefully, I don't know where you're located, but hopefully we will be getting some spring weather soon and more time for outside activities, which just makes it a lot of fun.
Totally. You said East Coast. I'm in Virginia Beach. So we are southeast. And so last weekend we had a snowstorm. Today it's 67. So like we were totally tipping finally. I saw your like sweater and I was like, I wonder if it's cold.
I'm in Pennsylvania, so
Okay. Yeah. You guys are still like very
it's
wintry. It's like trying to break.
misty and 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was us like a couple days ago. So I feel you, but this will come. This will come your way. Ashton, you are so awesome. Where could people hang out with you, find your services? Where can I direct them to?
So I would love to connect with you on Instagram. My Instagram is Enneagram Ashton. And I do read all of my DMs. It's very important to me. So I just would love to hear from you. Also, you can check out my website at enneagramashton.com and find all of the information there.
Ashton, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're the real hero if you've made it this far. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and check out the show notes for any resources or cool info mentioned in today's episode, or places to follow along if you want to hang out some more. I'm rooting for you today and always. Stay messy.